Hello everybody, I'm Meso.
And I'm LJ.
And streaming to you from a golden beach, this is Knack and Jay.
Alright.
Hello everybody!
I have no idea if any of that is working. I'm gonna be honest.
Let us know in the chat if we're coming through.
Yeah.
We're cleaning out the cobwebs, as one would say, and we might have some difficulties.
Yeah.
So we'll be looking to the chat for feedback on audio quality and whether it's working at all.
Yeah, pretty much. So, some of you might be wondering, where did everyone go? Why has the channel not done anything in a while? And the answer to those questions is quite simple. I haven't had a computer for like a month and a half.
Yup.
That's really the entire reason. Well, not the entire reason, but
there are other reasons that you're withholding. And also my computer issues.
Okay, yes, and yours as well.
It has been, generally speaking, a very busy, very stressful, very mentally and emotionally taxing year that has not gotten any easier as it's been going on, compounded with tech issues. Yeah, it's generally been a pretty dismal time.
Yep.
But I am glad to be with you all again. I'm glad to speak to you all again. I have missed all of you. I have missed Knack and Jay, and I've missed the channel. And LJ, you're here too.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, LJ.
Thanks so much. Yeah, hi, Meso. How's it going?
How are you doing?
Oh,
I'm very tired.
Same. Basically.
I've been up since 4:30 a.m. and I've been at work for a large majority of that time.
Yeah, no, I've been up for a while as well. Working on things. That's it. That's all I have to say. Yep.
Things!
I've had things to do.
Clearly, those involved LJ's Canon reviews. We review all the Canon mocks, yes? Clearly, that's what you've been working on.
We're gonna have a problem, aren't we? We're gonna have a problem on this entire gosh dang podcast, aren't we?
What was the name people were dubbing for those? LJ's remake reviews? LJ's
Redux
like
reviews.
LJ's Redux, LJ's reconstructed reviews. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
They had a fair storm of names. Bottom line, they're not happening.
I know you would never do it, but that would be a cool series, gotta admit.
Yeah.
The Top Duck review.
Well,
the Dark Players review.
It'd be cool, but I'm serious this time, guys. It's not.
Yeah, that's
happening.
Number one. LJ's like we're burning him at both ends. Number two, that's a ridiculous amount of money to invest in those builds.
Yeah.
And well, I guess those are two good enough reasons.
Yes, they are more than good enough for me, at the very least. So, it's not happening. They're not happening. A, stop asking me for them. And B, stop expecting them.
Yeah.
It's just gonna put that out there.
Right off the bat, we got a super chat from Sir Perry for 1999. We are back. Welcome back. Celebratory 1999. And hopefully with LJ's new PC, we can get those Nestle Bionicle promo toy reviews. Love, Sir Perry.
Yep, there it is. I was waiting for it. Yep.
Thank you very much.
I will see what I can do. It's a work in progress, as most things have been recently. All right. Now, so I'm kind of just ready to jump into things, personally.
I am as well.
Unless there's anything you want to discuss first.
Well, number one, I want to do the plugs, but before we do the plugs...
Shoot, I forgot about that.
But before we do the plugs, there's a very, very, very brief thing that I would like to make mention of.
I feel like I know what it is.
I feel like you know what it is.
Right.
There really isn't... there's not a direct link between this and our subject matter for today.
Not at all, in fact.
But considering the fact that this has just happened, and considering the fact that this is our first time sitting down to talk publicly since it's happened, I do want to address it in some form. So
Yeah.
yesterday, November 19th, 2020, we received the very, very tragic news that a voice actor by the name of Kirby Morrow has unfortunately passed away. Those in the Lego community and in our community will know him as the voice of Cole from Lego Ninjago, Masters of Spinjitzu, and the recent series, the continuations, which Netflix just dubs Ninjago.
Thanks,
He's
Netflix.
been there for since the very beginning. Very, very talented voice actor. He died at 47 years old. We found out about it late into the afternoon yesterday, and it understandably made ripples across the community. This is the first time, to my knowledge, that the Lego community has ever had to deal with the loss of a prominent figure in the company or related to the company. It's
it isn't, but it is the first that in this way. I'll put it that way.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there have been prominent figures that have passed away, but their influence has been substantial. However, they may not have been quite as public a figure. It's a weird way. Like the guy who designed the minifigure, I think he passed away earlier this year, last. But
yeah,
I mean,
and it's all it's all incredibly sad. With this, it's made a lot of an impact because obviously, I said it on Twitter. I was like, one of the strongest things about Ninjago as a franchise has always been the voice actors. And it's not just because they're talented in their roles or they're talented actors. It's because they've been very interpersonally linked to the community. People rally behind them for the spirit they bring to the characters, for how they treat the fans. They've always been super kind towards everyone and very fostering that sense of community that's really helped Ninjago become what it is. And number one, I just wanted to do a brief tribute to the man because he did incredible work and it clearly resonated with a lot of people. And second, I just wanted to kind of extend that olive branch to our Ninjago neighbors, for lack of a better word, where I understand this is going to be really hard for a lot of you. It's hard for us too. We major Ninjago fans. Death sucks. Death is a very, very, very tragic part of life. The only thing I can say is that because of all the good he did and because of the impact he left on all of you through his work on the show, through his work bringing the character of Cole to life, take comfort in the fact that he's going to leave a legacy worth remembering, and he's going to do that because of all of you. So don't stop. And we're here for you in whatever way we can be. We're all part of the bigger Lego community. This is going to be really hard, but we will get through it so long as you do not forget him. Yep. Rest in peace, Kirby Morrow. We'll have a brief moment of silence for him. Yeah, it's rough. Yesterday was not fun.
No, yesterday was not a good day. Not a good day by any stretch of the imagination. So, but
nope.
As it stands, today is a new day. It's up to us
Life
to make
must
a better day.
move on. Yes.
So we're gonna.
And what better way to do that with community canon infighting?
Shut up. All right, we're done. Thanks, everyone. It's been fun. I was gonna say, we're gonna create a new day, but I don't want to anymore.
Community canon infighting.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Well,
that's great. It's fantastic. Okay. First,
by virtue of us being gone for so long, let's refamiliarize you all with who we are and where you can find our stuff. LJ, take it away.
It's been a while since I've done this. It's like riding a bicycle. All right. If you're interested in joining in the conversation and the discussion, head on over to TTV message boards at board.tvchannel.com. Need to be 13 years or older and read the message board rules, and you're going to have a good time. Also, make sure you check out our Patreon, patreon.com/TTV channel. Lowest $1 a month, you can join this Patreon Discord server, as well as the Minecraft server, which I actually don't know if it's even up right now, but we're going to try and get it back up if it isn't. Finally, head on over to our Twitters, at Mesonac, at the LJ Johnson, JOHNSEN, as well as at the TTV channel.
Yeah.
I think that's everything.
It's been a minute. Thank you, Elch.
All right, yeah. Awesome.
I appreciate that.
We have 2 more super chats. 2 more.
Oh, wonderful. Go ahead and read
He's
them.
back.
Read them, Elch.
26,000 down the drain with $5. He says, the most important election has wrapped up. The Artakha Canon Contest. And then Gustavus Adolphus with $4.99 said, LJ reviews the Paraka rap when? The answer to that is never. But,
Please do it, Elch.
Nope, not gonna do it. I'll thank you both so very much. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and make the image change on screen.
Yes.
There we go. Everyone,
celebration.
This is our Artakha. We did it. The second canon contest has come to an end, and we have finally determined the canon appearance of Artakha, the creator of the Toamata, as well as many other influential items in the Bionicle universe, including the Krakan and the Evoki, as well as we have determined the final canon appearance of the Mask of Creation, the final legendary Kanohi mask to receive an appearance. Ouch. Yay.
I'm happy.
It only took nearly 2 months.
Yeah, it's been a journey.
So, this contest went a lot better than the first one. No surprise there. But that doesn't mean it was easy. And it doesn't mean that it was without great stress and strain on our end.
I think it's fair to say that, like, going into this contest, our biggest goals and the thing that you and I were very, like, conscious about making sure happened was we didn't want another Hosrix level fiasco.
Yes.
We wanted a relatively smooth sailing where all the entrants were judged on their merits, not because of any, like, meta controversy or vote rigging or shenaniganry. And I think that overwhelmingly, even though this contest brought with it unique struggles, I think that was a wonderful success.
Mm-hmm.
We had to DQ a few entries very early on.
Yep.
For, like, violating the good faith rule.
Yep.
But they were a massive minority.
Yes.
Like, they barely even registered in the grand scheme of things.
Basically, every main issue we ran into in the Hellrix contest was nearly a non-issue in this one. We had basically next to no fraudulent votes. We had no large rallying campaigns for any specific entries. It was just a good old-fashioned people make great things, and people vote for the things that they like the most, by and large. And as Meso mentioned, this is also the first time we used Rule 11. Rule 11 is we reserve the right to disqualify at any time any entry that we have reason to believe has been entered in bad faith or in an attempt to disrupt the voting process, or any entry we have reason to believe may disrupt the voting process. So there's a specific reason why that's kind of duplicated, but also there's a comma between them. It's essentially to suggest, well, your entry might disrupt the voting process, but that doesn't mean it's intentionally trying to. Essentially.
It's because people might seize it and use it as a weapon, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So, we have a lot to discuss. Let's go ahead and start off with the stupid poll we hosted between the contests to decide which contest was next. This was a dumb idea. This was a really stupid idea.
It was a good idea.
Was
it was like it was trying to give people choice. It's just it was unnecessary, and we knew it was, but we did it to humor people. But I get the sentiment of, like, oh, let us pick who's next, so characters don't get forced through that, people don't actually care about, and prioritize the people you actually care about instead of making a canon contest for Botar's replacement, which I still totally want to happen, by the way. But
No.
the reason it was dumb is because we knew that too, and we planned our list to accommodate that.
Yep, pretty much.
Like, the results were exactly what we expected. Like, okay, you think Bionicle Canon Contest, who first comes to mind? Hellrix, Artakha, Tuyet, Haga. Maybe not in that. Oh yeah, Lariska. Maybe not in that exact order, but like those 5, they are the high priority ones, and everybody else kind of falls to a lower spectrum.
Yep.
And we expected that. Did we really honestly think that people were gonna vote in like Chiara or Ord as the next canon contest? No. People might want to see those eventually, yes, but they're not Artakha. They're not Tuyet or the Haga. They're low priority.
Yeah. So what we had done, I mean, as Meso said, we expected this, went into it, but understand there's 3 weeks. 3 weeks between the ending of the Hellrix contest and the beginning of the Artakha one. And no discussion could get done because the results of the poll were hidden until the poll ended. So what ended up happening is Meso and I, we discussed it with each other. I don't know how much of it we discussed with the council, but we knew some things were going to need to happen to accommodate this contest happening to satisfy not only people that want to build in Artakha, but also people that don't have a lot of sand green, because Artakha is canonically sand green. So the poll happens, Artakha is next, doesn't change 1 iota from the list we had set up, and we have lost all time to discuss it with the community and kind of give our perspective for things and explain why we're going to be doing certain things a certain way. So and we instituted a rule saying you can enter an Artakha with 1 shade of green. It can be any shade of green, but it has to be 1, and we're going to have it recolored in the art contest. Later on, that got amended, thanks to a suggestion by Sharnak, to allow for 1 shade of green in addition to any sand green that you might have on it. So you're technically getting 2, and then whatever isn't sand green, but still green, gets recolored. The reason we
Sharnak, you're a legend, and I appreciate you.
Yes, I still remember your comics. Excuse me. The reason we did this is to hit a happy medium, a balance between the folks that want to make sure that these mocks are going to be canon, and that when they make them, they're getting the canon representation that they are expecting to, and allow as many people as possible to enter the contest, because sand green is not a common color, and the pieces it's in are harder to use, especially for lower experienced builders. So this way, anyone that has green can enter, and also, we're going to recolor it later on anyway. So that way, everyone's happy, right? Wrong. Wrong.
Were it so easy.
Yep. So, we did that, but everyone was like, it's such an arbitrary restriction. Why are you doing this? Well, listen. You're gonna have to have guidelines for a contest based on making a character look a certain way. That's the whole point. We're not gonna start allowing, alright, here's Artakha. He's blue. He's blue and turquoise. That's not happening. Then it's not Artakha. Excuse me. Artakha is green. And our olive branch was to basically just use 1 shade of green, and then we'll make it sand green. Ended up not being much of an issue, because the winning entry used sand green. But that was our thought process. And we didn't have a lot of time to kind of explain this to people, because the contest started.
So Trevor Samora just gave us a super chat of $100.
Oh my goodness.
Unfortunately, I can't keep listening, but wanted to give a little bit because I love this podcast. Hope you have been well and have a great rest of the year.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. That is
Thank
incredibly generous.
We
I
have not
greatly
been well.
appreciate
However, we appreciate the sentiment.
We haven't particularly, like, the 2020 blues on the internet have been hitting us
On the
just as
internet,
hard as anybody
it's
else.
been everywhere. It's been everywhere.
Well, you know, like, you're right. You know what I mean? We're not exempt,
No.
but it is always heartwarming to hear that people still care about us. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I appreciate it. I think that's my favorite thing about the Artakha thing, is that despite all of the shenanigans and all of the rules meant to try to bend the sand green thing as much as it possibly could be bent, which I do support us doing. I think it was necessary to allow for creative building. I do love that the winner just used sand green.
Sorry.
It wasn't a studio mock. It wasn't, painted. It wasn't anything of the sort. It was just straight up a mock that used sand green.
Real quick,
that's
sorry
great.
About that sound, everyone. I got an email, and I just forgot to mute the friggin' email thing, so I'm gonna do that right now. So sorry.
How could you? You took me out.
No, it didn't take you out, but it made a doo-doo-doo. So if anyone,
I want to roll it back a little bit. I want to roll
ahead.
it back to the poll, about the order, because the sentiment that really was pervasive about the contest early on was, why didn't you anticipate for X? Why didn't you anticipate for Y? This problem, this question, this slippery slope, this bend of the rules. Why was none of this taken into account? Much less stuff slipped through the cracks than in Hellrix, but there were still a few situations that prompted discussion, that prompted internal debate as for, like, whether it violated the spirit of the rules, the law of the rules, etc., etc. The point Eljay was making about the poll is that ideally, what we would have liked to do, and in the interest of being fair, what we could have done and what we should have done, even in spite of the poll, was to conduct open discourse about the specific character we're doing in the community. People can spend that time asking any questions about the rules, figuring out all the gray areas in a period of about 3 weeks to a month. So when the contest goes live, every potential issue has been accounted for or asked by someone. The reason we didn't do it for Artakha was because we had the poll. And since we did not know who would be next, we were somewhat limited in having that specific discussion. We still had it always. Like, there's the open canon contest topic. Plenty of people could chime in and did chime in to voice their thoughts and their questions and whatnot about the characters in general. And plenty of discussion was had about Artakha. But because the focus wasn't lasered in on him yet as being the selected next pick, we didn't go as in-depth as we would have liked to. So going forward, we will not be holding that poll anymore to decide the order.
We won't.
Because it was pointless.
Yep.
What we will, however, be doing is doing those expanded rule set discourses. So people who felt like there wasn't enough time in between the rules being made public and the entry period deadline to ask those questions, to gather those pieces, to figure things out. We hear you, and that should be alleviated completely. Because quite frankly, if a question isn't asked during the discussion period and the entry period, at that point, that's kind of on, the people, for not asking it at that point.
So
fingers crossed.
A quick couple things I want to address in the YouTube comments right now. Fanbill says, because you shouldn't make public the rules at the same time than the contest itself. That's what we're talking about. If you just joined us, yeah, we agree. We didn't want to do a poll, which got us nowhere. And he says to somebody outside the US and Europe, 3 weeks, still not enough time. First of all, that's another mistake we made. Outside of holding this dumb poll, we also decided to make the contest be 2 weeks. A 2-week entry period for Artakha instead of 3. Now, we amended that pretty quickly because people were right. It's not enough time for an Artakha design. However, you raise an excellent point. By doing this dumb poll and being like, hey, who's it gonna be? Anyone that doesn't have quick access to purchasing pieces is getting significantly handicapped by the uncertainty. That's not a good thing. It's a disservice to any of them. However, you now no longer have that issue. If you want to start working on any of the characters on our list, the order that they're going to be done in is public. All right?
Yes.
So if you're intending on entering any of these next few contests, you start ordering your pieces now. You start working on your mocks now. Excuse me. And it
should be a problem that fixes itself basically through the passage of time.
Exactly. So,
but that was a large current of discussion, and there were a lot of issues that were not necessarily points of controversy or points of drama, but rather points of the spirit of the rules versus the law of the rules, how this is going to be applied, etc., etc., etc. I think the biggest one easily, what you already got into, were the shades of green. Mm-hmm. Because there were two disparate sides of the coin. Artakha's sand green, so he has to be sand green. Duh. And sand green is too rare. Sand green is too uncommon. Sand green can't be mocked with. That one is obviously untrue. Because there were a plethora of amazing mocks, none of which looked the same. All of which had unique statures and builds that used sand green as maybe not the dominant color, but certainly a primary color all throughout the contest. Do I regret having the option to allow for other greens? No, not at all. I think we got a lot of really creative builds that obviously we want creativity more than anything else. So I'm glad we did that. I don't regret it. But then you go into the one shade issue. People question throughout the whole process, why are we limited to one shade of green other than, sand green? Why can't we have more? Why can't we have more? And all throughout the process, we just had to keep drilling it into people's heads. It's because canonically, Artakha is sand green. The artwork is going to be the canon representation. The artwork is going to be sand green. Ergo, for simplicity's sake of dozens of artists being able to translate this mock into art form, ideally we didn't want to leave that to the builder to issue post-contest clarification and be like, well, okay, so I want the shoulders to be sand green, but I want this piece on the torso to be dark green. But then maybe you can have this piece on the legs be sand green, but then also dark green, and expect every artist to mimic that color breakdown to a T. That to us seemed way too complicated and way too ripe with potential disaster.
Yeah. And
it was a lot easier to just boil it down.
We had people that tried to do that. Like someone would make an Artakha and it'd be this one color. It wouldn't even be a green. And be like, all right, so all of these pieces here, these are going to be green. These aren't, though, so if this one wins, I'm just going to have people, make this part of the mock green. And it's like, no. If your entry wins, the minuscule amounts of green you have are all that we're permitting to be recolored green.
Exactly.
That's it. So, it was a way to really significantly streamline the art portion of things given the complexity of this challenge.
And I think it worked. I think it worked pretty well. Getting people to understand it, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people didn't right up until the bitter end.
Yeah. Of course, none of it mattered because the winning entry was perfectly sand green. It didn't matter.
Connor
at all.
Hoffman.
Yep. Let's go ahead and show the mock, the winning inspiration mock for the contest. This is Artakha by Connor Hoffman, otherwise known as. I always screw up his name, so I'm just gonna go to his YouTube channel. There we go. Wombat Combat Pictures. And okay, so full disclosure, full transparency. This was most of TTV's favorite. Most of us really liked this one above a lot of the others. So you can go ahead and start getting your rigging conspiracy theories already. Get your tinfoil hats. But we saw this one.
It was rigged.
Yeah, TTV just made their favorite. They're the number one. No. I don't think we could have rigged it as well as if we tried. Because it's honestly kind of hilarious how much of a landslide this one won by. Like, in no poll that it was in did it face challenge. it was unbelievable how popular of an entry this Artakha was. Genuinely. So, it was...
Well, there were a lot of good entries that made it to the final poll.
Absolutely.
Lots of very talented people. I think the thing that pushed Connor over the top is because his adhered very well to the G1 aesthetic. I look at this mock, and I think this belongs in G1.
Possibly.
This works.
I don't know.
I know for sure. Look at the other people in the final poll.
I
You had...
I don't remember many of them. It's been so long since I saw them. So,
well, you had people like, I'm not going to expect you to put the images up.
I won't.
But you had mocks like Sparky's, which was incredibly cool, very intricate, and also like 90% CCBS.
Oh yeah, which
you had mocks.
He made a point to complain about. That people probably
wouldn't
go for it.
You had people like Wholesome Gadunka, who incredibly talented, excellent mock, amazingly intricate, but also very, very, very greebly, very full of like tiny, tiny pieces. It looked more like a sculpture than anything else. And I think that Connor's has a certain appeal because even though it uses plenty of parts that aren't from G1 Bionicle, like drill dozers, headpieces, like the bin tin legs, it's framed in such a way to where it just fits. It fits in very nicely. And it's not the only mock that did, of course. But I do think that is its greatest strength is people sometimes forget and they get very incensed about it, and they did. As much as we love paying tribute to excellent creations, at the end of the day, this isn't a mock contest or an art contest. It's a canon contest.
Yeah.
One of the primary concerns when we were starting this, and we had to ask Greg, to clarify, was stuff like, will CCBS be allowed? And his answer was yes, of course. Why would you limit creativity? And people instantly rebelled against that answer, and they said, no, you're going to have CCBS parts in Bionicle? That's not going to mesh with the look at all. It's going to look so different from everything else. And I was like, calm down. People aren't gonna push that through. At the end of the day, good mocks can utilize CCBS while still preserving the G1 aesthetic. There's a balance, there's a blend, and that's what I wanted. I wanted people to be able to achieve that balance. But a really, really good CCBS mock, which is excellent, and I love CCBS, so I'll always extol its virtues and people that build with it, probably will never be accepted by the majority of people as a G1 mock unless it's some otherworldly entity or character that is distinct enough to make it work. That's just how it is.
Yep. Yeah. No, but I think Connor did a great job. I really like it. It's also the first and, as of now, only canonical creation for Bionicle G1 to have Hero Factory and CCBS pieces.
I love it. And been 10 pieces.
And then 10 pieces. So it's kind of funny.
Not as many people care about that, but it's still cool.
Yeah. But no, it's interesting. But yeah, no, I think he did a really good job. It was definitely a clear favorite for us for a lot of different reasons. Not everyone, of course. It wasn't unanimous like, oh yeah, we all love it. We're a hive mind. But it was definitely my favorite. So.
Oh, easily. I think it was really funny because, well.
Oh, yes.
Time.
I nearly forgot. Thank you for reminding me. So, we've been on record talking about how we publicly decried the behaviors of the first contest winner for the Helrix contest, _double, because he went around bullying other participants in the first contest and just generally being kind of a garbage person. And one of the people that he significantly trashed on was Connor, who applied last time. Ha 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 ha.
Never before has the karmic seesaw been this in full exemplification.
Gosh, seeing him flip out about it was like nectar. Connor,
seesaw.
you are a far better person than either of us are. You handled that entire situation so brilliantly. I know you would not be doing what we're doing right now, but we were significant.
I don't care.
We were massively frustrated to learn that happened. And so to see you make such an incredible turnaround, it really makes us happy. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer person, and it also couldn't have happened to be someone who really needed that.
I mean, it was a thing because when that whole thing was going down, we were getting so many messages. We were like, why are you condoning, Double's actions in the community? He's generally like a massive a-hole to people. Why are you letting him participate in this? And we were just kind of like, well, we obviously we detest the behaviors, but it's also not a personality contest. It's a mocking contest, and we're not gonna remove people based on actions that took place off site as much as we might like to. It would harm the integrity. So things proceeded as normal, and I mean, Doubles mock won, and say what you will about the mock, it won. I think it's a good representation, but I always knew in the back of my head sometime it'll come due.
Oh yeah,
karma will collect.
Just the very next contest, and wham. So
yeah,
no.
So it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm very happy. And I hope that _double learns from this experience, and I hope he had an easy time selecting whichever flavor of ice cream he decided to have with his slice of humble pie.
Nice. Imagine eating ice cream with pie.
Yeah, a la mode. Have you never done that? Have you never had a slice of apple pie with vanilla ice cream on top?
No.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
Dude, it's all about that pumpkin pie and lemon meringue.
Oh,
bro.
I forgot about this. I completely forgot that. It's really sad, Meso, that you had to announce to the world like this that you have the virus, given that you clearly don't have any taste.
Oh my god.
It's one of my
LJ,
favorites.
why?
I love it so much. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. I want to talk about how wonderful this new voting system we have is.
Well, I had more mock contest controversies to discuss, but we can do voting first.
Wait. What other ones did we have? I don't remember any others.
There were two very well. Okay, one comparatively minor, and then one that was actually pretty major.
I don't remember. It's been a while.
Well, it's not like it was ever drama, but it was situations with the rules that went quite vocal. and I want to use this as an opportunity to talk about it since we kept pretty mum.
Okay.
Number 1 is the guy with the Ben 10 chest plates, and number 2 is Wholesome Gadunka.
The guy with the Ben
And-
10. Oh, I forgot about this one.
Yes. And I think it ties into the art contest issue later.
Okay.
So we don't have to go super in depth on it. I want to address Gadunka's first because it was super simple. Nothing to do personally with anybody. Wholesome Gadunka was the second place mock winner. I would like to throw his mock up on the screen real fast.
I
if you
don't
wouldn't
have a
mind.
picture for it.
I got you. Boom. If people didn't vote for Connor, they very likely voted for him. He got a massive turnout. It's the one I mentioned before. It was very greebly. It was very like hyper detailed. And it was also completely spray painted, which is all good Wholesome Gadunka's staple. He's all about the spray paint. It's almost like model kit building almost.
There we go.
The amount of detail that he's able to pack into these mocks. It's incredible. And this mock was like, I had a fight with myself about which one I liked more, Connor or this one. But there was a large subset of people who were against this mock as well. And probably the reason why it didn't win is because of how much it was painted.
Mm-hmm.
Because Artakha, canonically, his primary color, what he was described as, is sand green. We initially had a very strict sand green color requirement, like a percentage. I think it was like 70% or 60%.
Yeah, I think it was 60.
We got massive pushback on that because of how difficult it was to actually quantify that. I had a method, and it's as simple as look at limbs, see how much certain piece is, do basic elementary grade mathematics. It wasn't rocket science to me to determine a ratio of like armor colors, since that's what we were really counting, not like internals. But it was unpopular, so rather than try to fight the tide, we loosened up on it. And we made it a kind of like a recommendation, not a guideline that you would get DQ'd for.
Yeah.
Which is why this mock was able to be entered. Wholesome Gadunka was one of the first people to extol against that rule, probably because he had this mock in progress. And I mean, with the amount of detail here, it kind of makes sense because he had to paint like everything. I think most pieces on this are painted, maybe not all, but I know even some of the blacks, even some of the silvers, have been painted to match the chrome look he's going for. And the problem this raised is because, again, it came down to building versus canon. It wasn't so much a purism issue, although replicability definitely played a role, because if people want to build Artakha, they would need to basically paint everything. But that wasn't really the major thing. It basically came down to canon. And the argument that was put forth in favor of Wholesome Gadunka was, why does it matter if he painted everything? They can just fix it in the art contest. They can just make him more green. Except that's not how it worked.
Yeah, no.
And we had to reiterate it time and time and time again and try to get people to understand, vote for this if you want. It's an excellent mock. It would deserve the win, but know that if you do, you're going to get a black Mask of Creation. You're going to get a primarily black and gold Artakha.
Potentially black Mask Creation.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. The mask could be exempt from that.
Yeah.
You're going to get the color ratio exactly how it is now. And when people realized that, I think they started to kind of go against it a little bit, because that's just how the contest was structured. And the common prevailing point was, why would Wholesome Gadunka choose to go out of his way to paint pieces in such a high quantity, but also not adhere to the coloration? Theoretically, if anybody could do it easily, it would be the man who's painting everything.
Yeah.
And that was a fair point. The simple answer probably is that he just didn't want to. The simple answer is he probably just thought this looked cool, which as a mockist, that is like 100% his prerogative. And I do think it looks super cool. But I still see a lot of people like championing this mock and wondering, why it didn't go so far. And I just wanted to state that on the record. It's because, once again, not building canon, and Artakha canonically is sand green.
Yeah. Additionally, so we don't mandate replicability, but the rules are pretty heavily set up to allow it to really cater to mocks that are replicable that can be recreated. So this, to a lot of people, was also it was something that turned them away, because you're basically going to dump a whole ton of paint into a ton of pieces in order to recreate it as close to the original as possible. And for a lot of people, that's a huge negative. With Connors, you don't have to paint anything aside from the mask, and the mask has to be 3D printed anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not a huge chunk of people, mind you, but it's enough to... people still want it to be remakeable, even if they don't intend to.
Yeah.
So
it's why we generally there's certain modifications that are okay, and then there's some that aren't. It goes a step too far,
Mm-hmm.
But that was it. We were never gonna DQ Gadunka, but I know that personally, when it came down to me casting my vote, I went for the canon accurate option.
Yeah.
But I wanted to call that out, number one, because of the incredible work Gadunka did. I think it deserves to be respected. And two, to clarify, that's why.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
The second controversy that was actually a bit of a controversy was a mock-up made by a creator named Geru100, who I will also post in the patron chat. And this mock was entered very, very, very late into the contest's duration. It was entered 37 minutes before the entry period ended.
That close.
It was that close. He submitted it at 11:23 p.m. Eastern time.
Oh my gosh.
This mock is very, very popular in the community. Very popular. I've seen a lot of people in favor of this, citing a lot of the creative build techniques, specifically on the torso, the arms, and the knees. It has all the gears. It's got the Toamata-esque torso build with the pistons. It's got the bulky shoulders. It's got a lot going for it.
Yeah.
But it also violated two rules, which one is far more controversial than the second. Number one is the shoulder armor, the Ben 10 torsos. He removed the printing of the Omnitrix Ben symbol, whatever, which is against the rules. And the mask is also dual colored, which is against the rules. Has those blue runes. Elj, why do those rules exist?
All right, so the first one pertaining to the shoulders, it is in regards to Rule 8G. Pieces that only exist in printed varieties that have had the printing removed or have been painted are not allowed. However, if the pieces are not unique and have been released non-printed in other colors, they may have the printing removed or may be painted over. What this mockist did is he removed the printing from a piece which has never been released unprinted. As such, it violates that rule. The reason for this is because while, again, we do have an emphasis on permitting replicability, there we go, we also allow modification to pieces, non-purism, in a way that will not permanently damage parts. So, for instance, we do not allow cut pieces or cut stickers. We don't allow glued pieces or glued stickers. And we don't allow things that will generally permanently damage a piece. I think the one exception is we do allow dyed pieces. But we don't really see a whole lot of that anyway, so it's more of a just in case kind of a deal. So the reason for this is, of course, because most of the pieces we're working with are finite. We're not going to have all of them forever. They're eventually all going to deteriorate anyway. However, we're also not going to really endorse speeding that process up. Also, again, replicability. Most people aren't too enthused to be cutting their pieces. And depending on which pieces those are that get cut, they could be some fairly valuable ones. So that's the reason that rule exists. Unfortunately, this mockist opted to remove the printing from a piece that had no printed alternative, or non-printed alternative, meaning that if you just wanted to paint over it, well, tough beans. So, there's that, for starters. The mask is definitely the more controversial of these two.
Oh, yeah.
So the reason we have that, it is in regards to another rule we have. It's Rule 8E. Painted and dyed pieces are allowed, however, only monotone paint jobs are allowed, i.e. a mask cannot be painted/dyed with two colors. So the reason for this is actually very well explained. A good example for why we wanted to make this rule is actually right in front of us. It's this mask here. Art is a very fascinating subject, and hand painting something can honestly be very interesting, can be very cool, very well done, as is illustrated here very well. Not all artists are created equal, unfortunately, and as such, we wanted to avoid a potential situation where a piece has been painted with a very ornate design, let's say by someone like Moldalt Masks, and it's very impressive and it's very intricate, and it's really only replicable by talented artists. We wanted to avoid that being a potential situation, which is why that rule exists. It's mostly in terms of patterns.
I can imagine for a moment that someone makes a mock with like giant CCBS shells and just draws like ornate decals on them, like 2015 Toa Master chest plate level decals.
Yeah,
just like all over them to basically make the mock look like it's wearing armor that it really isn't by sole virtue of the decal. How much of that at that point becomes a mocking contest and how much becomes an art contest disguised as a mock contest?
Yeah. So it's an issue. The main counter argument we've heard in regards to this is that, well, it's the mask, it's going to get swapped out anyway. And that's fine.
Yep.
That's a perfectly reasonable complaint. That's a perfectly reasonable counter argument. The mask is going to get swapped out. Unfortunately, we didn't really have time to have that conversation because of two reasons. One, we had already asked another mockist who did the exact same thing, the exact same mask, to remove the additional printed, the additional rune coloring, and he did.
Which they did.
He did,
yeah.
And that happened well beforehand. The other issue is that this guy submitted this entry 37 minutes before the polls closed. Not a lot of time. So, or not polls, the entry period ended. So, there's really no turnaround for that. But somebody just, this guy again, Fanbill in the YouTube chat said, "We understand the rules, but those seem rather pointless." Then you don't understand the rules. We've just been explaining the points behind them. If you don't understand them, re-listen to what we just said.
I don't want mosaics on my CCBS armor, and I want any modifications to pieces to be very surface level, removable, or correctable, i.e. paint. That's it. That's basic. That's like super simple, to the point. But through the course of the dialogue, plenty of people have raised counterpoints. Plenty of people have had other suggestions, different ways to write the rules to make them more clear, asking questions about, like, well, how does the dual painting rule apply to 3D printed masks, etc. What about like resin? What about like molds like that, etc., etc., etc. What if instead of removing the print, he just painted over the print? What's the tangible difference there? All very good questions and all very good points. And these are things that I wish we had been able to hash out through a dialogue. Like imagine if we had the topic up and people were submitting their mocks early or whips early and asking questions about elements they were working on. And that way we have been able to have a dialogue, our moderating team have been able to have a dialogue and answer questions, and then nobody was DQ'd. That is the outcome that I wish, and that's the outcome that we're going to have in the future. Because ideally, trust me, I understand I'm a procrastinator by heart. But a lot of times when you submit something super late, you don't really have a lot of room to course correct if you misread a rule or something. And we're going to come back to that later in the art contest.
Mm-hmm.
So going forward, we're going to have the rules be open deliberation for the community. And I encourage everybody, if you have the capacity to share your whips and share stuff you're working on and ask questions about parts or rules, please do. Because that way we or our moderating team can try to help. Don't wait until it's been entered, because sometimes it can be too late.
Yeah, exactly.
And I do apologize to Guru, because from everything I've heard, he really tried to get all the parts. It was hard to get all these parts. He lives in like Chile.
Yeah,
he lives in another country.
Fan Bill was just saying in the chat, he tried to be purist and it was really hard to get all the pieces in Chile, so it was really discouraging. He was disqualified. I understand that.
Yeah, he was very.
I empathize with that. I think he did a phenomenal job. He was going to get disqualified no matter what because he took the printing off of the shoulder pieces.
Yeah, it's hard as the runner of a contest. And it's going to be doubly hard in the art contest because another similar situation happened. But like, I don't like DQing people straight up. I'll just tell you all, I don't like it. LJ could attest. I was always trying to like, well, what if? And what if we did this? And what if we did that? To try to like figure out an alternative. It's not always a good thing, because when a precedent is set, you have to follow it to be respectful to other builders who also had to follow the rules. And whether the rules are smart or not, and whether the rules make sense or not, when they're live and when the contest is up and running, then everybody must adhere to them, because that's the only way it can be fair.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the kind of thing that we felt comfortable with like amending midway through, because that creates an unfair playing field, even though it sucks to have to DQ people for instances where the rules are debatable as to their merits. That's the kind of thing when the contest goes live, it has to be followed through on. But we can incorporate that feedback for next time, and we will. Not necessarily feedback that's been gained so far, but rather all these issues are going to be on the discussion block going forward. And I encourage everybody who criticized them, share your thoughts going forward, because through community consensus, we can like iron out all the questions and all the oddities with these rules and get things in a place where people can be happy with.
Yeah.
But it has to be through dialogue.
Just a real quick thing here. iBunny in the chat was saying the thing is with this, as the rules were explicitly written at the time, this one did not break any of them. The removed Omnitrixes were stickers. Mask was only painted of one color. No, to both. I'm pretty sure that the Omnitrixes are their prints. These parts
whether
don't
they
exist
are
without them.
Yeah, I mean they definitely aren't a sticker in the traditional sense. I imagine he might be trying to go with the production angle, like the manufacturing angle.
I don't know.
Where technically they're permanently applied stickers that have been applied like in the manufacturing process. Keep in mind, we're not speaking about this from the perspective of a manufacturer. We're speaking about it from the perspective of Lego.
All right.
And the way I define a sticker is, unless it's on a sticker sheet, it's not a sticker.
Yeah, no, if yeah. So we're getting some people in the patron chat saying they're pre-applied stickers.
Yeah,
That's what Connor's saying, and yeah, that's fine. But unless you applied it yourself, it comes like that from the factory. So
yeah,
it's no different functionally than a print, and removing it acts the same way.
exactly. And secondarily, I know what he's getting at with the mask
There's a
because
caveat there too.
it comes down to, yeah, exactly. It's one of those like caveats that is open to discussion. It's, well, with 3D printing, for instance, if I order a mask from Shapeways, whatever color that comes in, and then I apply paint to it, I'm only painting it one shade. I'm only applying paint one shade. Even if he didn't fully paint the mask, he still only applied one shade. But that is exactly the point of contention, because for the purposes of the mask, you were able to select whatever color you wanted from Shapeways. They have a bunch of different color options, bunch of different shades, textures, materials. You made a conscious choice to shade the piece in that way. You know what I mean? Even if you didn't manually apply the paint to it, it was still a choice. That was the logic behind it. It's still a dual mold. It's still a dual shade.
Yeah.
But once again, we're being pedantic. I acknowledge it was controversial. I just wanted to address it publicly and say, hey,
This
we're
is why
going
that
to. This is why it happened. It will be discussed in the future. And Giru, I acknowledge you're probably still very disappointed. I know you're still active in the community. Once again, if you ever hear this, just know I still really appreciate you entering.
Yeah,
It was a very good.
I hope you enter in the next few contests. This was an excellent mock, absolutely phenomenal. So
Definitely.
but yeah, that's good.
You know what was also phenomenal, LJ?
Hmm.
The polls. They
Yes.
went well.
Yes. All right. I just gotta get a quick picture. So the new voting system, the preferential voting system. It's been such a smash success. Gosh dang it, I love it so much because it really does away with a lot of the issues that we ran into with the voting last time. It's no longer just a blind majority. We can pretty easily tally everything up. It doesn't take very long. This is all thanks to the incredible efforts of Infrared on the message boards, Morris on BSO1. He did a wonderful job getting the code ready for that, and yeah, it's fantastic. It makes it for a far more fair outcome, and one that the majority of people can accept and enjoy, which is why it's always really exciting. So it's exciting for two reasons. One, it's exciting for us in the sense that we also kind of get surprised because there's no clear-cut winner. So we also kind of get to find out who the winner is. And also, it's really impressive when one entry just sweeps the playing field. So we've been posting the poll results publicly after the polls end. And so when you see something just absolutely wiping everything out, like Connor's did, it's super impressive and really cool.
For sure.
So
we got a super chat from 26K down the drain. Consuming food is necessary to maintain biomass and energy, even in the Matoran universe. Matoran fish have cattle and maintain crops. They obviously eat food, so where does the food go? Where do they go when they gotta go?
oh my gosh.
These are not the questions that we could answer. Ask Greg Farshty. They absorb energy. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, pretty much.
And also thank you for the $20. I really appreciate it.
So let's move on to the art contest.
Oh yeah, artwork.
So this also went fairly well. but it was definitely the part of the contest that didn't get handled as well for a couple of reasons.
There were a lot.
Yeah, there were a few. Unfortunately, Meso and I basically abstained from the entire part of this process, not by choice entirely. This is when things really kind of hit us. We got a lot of technical issues. We both suffered a little bit of burnout as well, and we got just generally busy in our lives.
Well, I work retail, and I was approaching peak season in like coronavirus Karzani. We'll say that
Yeah.
to avoid other names. Like it's bad. I'm very stressed. Like it's no coincidence that the part of the contest that was most poorly handled and then when we were most hands off also occurred during the period of time where the TTV channel was basically dead.
Yeah.
There's no coincidence there.
Exactly.
We're basically the only two people who handle these. You know, with the exception of, you know, Keeney, who's in some Discord servers, who helps, Mange, Tenebrae Invictus, who helps make the poll results and running the algorithm and stuff. But we're basically just it. There was a point, I forget if it was during the art contest or right before the art contest, but you were very active in community servers, and I think burnout like reached you critically.
Yeah.
Because of a lot of the attitudes of some people.
I basically removed myself from most of the Bionicle community servers, the exceptions being the Lighthouse Studios Discord and BZ Power. So, those are the only two I'm in at this time, outside of, you know, the TTV ones. Because I got so sick of dealing with the people, and those aren't good places to have discourse about these contests, because you just have a pile on. I wanted to give someone a special shout out. He's a patron of ours, and he really gave me the push to finally leave the Bionicle Reddit Discord server because he's just kind of a brat.
Bruh.
So, what were you saying?
No, I was just saying at times things can be very bad. Sometimes things can be very good. It all depends on people's like very passionate auras about this contest. Everybody has their own agenda. We've talked about it before. And when people feel that it's not being met, or when people feel very strongly against the decision we're making, sometimes people can get a little too toxic, a little too like heated and inflammatory. I think you definitely bore the greatest burden of that.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that you're like the only one interacting, and you were the one primarily like laying the smackdown on rule breakers or disqualifying entries.
Yep.
So it's very easy to throw around the hatred against LJ, when in reality I'm like I condone and support the decisions as well. So throw some hate my way, please.
No, just don't. How's about, behave yourselves like rational adults, because most of you should be. Okay, Bionicle is 20 years old. At the bare minimum, you're gonna be just before 20 right now if you got into it at the end of G1. Act it. So
yeah,
no,
most people do, but there's a vocal group that sometimes does not.
Oh yeah,
and it got a little much to bear. So you removed yourself not just from public servers, but also you took a break from private servers too. You took a mental health break.
Yeah, no, I just took a very short break for a few days and just kind of went, all right, I'm done. I'm gonna just step away for a little bit. It was very nice. It was very nice.
And swirling in the maelstrom of that was also the technical issues where your computer was basically inoperable for like a month plus.
Yep, my computer basically all up and died. So something happened, and I ended up replacing my motherboard, my graphics card, and my power supply all at once, which is just awesome. It's just so
definitely
wonderful.
What you wanted to do.
Oh, that was a lot of money. It was just burning a hole in my pocket and going like, you should really spend me right now. And I just kept on telling, no, I don't want to spend you right now. I want to save you up like a reasonable person. And then this happened, and the money was like, gotcha.
So all that happened, all that culminated, and there was a point during the latter phase of the art contest submissions where we weren't really monitoring things as closely as we should have been.
Yeah.
And I say we because even though LJ usually is the one that does it, I still do monitor. I still follow the servers. I look at entries, and I also stopped. So I'm equally as culpable. We just kind of let things go, and we had the attitude of, oh yeah, we'll look everything over, at the end. Wrong move.
Yeah, not our wisest decision.
Wrong move for a few reasons. Number one, looking things over at the end, while cool from the perspective of a person, like, hey, let's take a look at all these amazing pieces of art that people have submitted over the last few weeks. Not so good from the perspective of a contest host, because what if things aren't done right? What if there's issues with some of the entries? Well, now you tell people, oh, hey, there's something wrong with your entry. We're sorry, we're gonna have to disqualify it, and they have like no time to fix it. But we rallied up. We did do it. We took a look through. We sat down. We had a few problems with some pieces of art, a few rules that weren't done right. Some people recolored pieces that shouldn't have been recolored, like we said earlier. The one shade rule. Some people recolored his cape a different color. We were like, hey, you need to make sure it's the same color cape. Minor stuff like that. We let people know. They fixed it. It was great. It was fine. There were a few people on the last day who had some problems that I noticed, and I was like, I don't feel comfortable making a unilateral decision on these. I want to wait till LJ and our other members get on, because I want to show this to them and make sure I'm interpreting the rules correctly. So I took note of when I noticed it. I waited for everybody to get on. We discussed it, and then I made the post and was like, hey, I noticed this X amount of hours ago. So because I documented that, you have X amount of hours past the deadline to fix it.
Yeah.
Right? That happened with a few people. I thought that was only fair. And they did. I think most of the people, if not all the people that I messaged, did.
Yeah. So
there was one person that we didn't message.
So I want to preface this real quick by talking about a rule we introduced, because this is predicated by a rule that was added very early into the art contest. It's a new rule. It's 4E for the art contest rules. Artwork cannot significantly modify the aesthetics of the original mock, either by omission or addition, and must follow the color scheme of the original mock as closely as possible. For example, additional limbs or significant color shifts would not be allowed. So this was actually, it was kind of more of an unspoken rule for a while, and Keeney finally kicked us to actually write it down and have it there. So we had some entries in the last contest that significantly altered the winning mock. Like over 50% of it was not based on the actual winning entry, which defeated the point, and we had to DQ it. So this is kind of a, covering all of our bases situation. So at the very end, last day of the art entry period, a TTV message board member by the name of Blue recolored a couple of, they entered their piece of art, and she had recolored the shoulder armor and the knee armor from their gunmetal to gold. Now, I want to stress that 4E says artwork cannot significantly modify. Minor things, obviously, we're going to let slide. Potentially some things like capes. Helrix from the last contest had the hands change from black to blue. They're small things. They don't really cause that much of an issue. But big things like major armor pieces, changing an entire metallic shade, that's not really going to fly. So,
do me a solid, Elge, while you talk about this. Go ahead and throw Blue's piece of art on screen.
And there it is.
I got you.
All right. So, save image as.
Thank you.
Hang on. It's not up. It's a whole process, Meso. That's why I need these things beforehand.
I know.
Alright. So this is Blue's entry. As soon as I can do the thing. Do that. Nope. Do it. Okay. Now we've brought this to a grinding halt. There we go. So this is Blue's entry. So very evidently, the knees and the shoulders are now gold. That is a significant change. So the artwork itself is fine. The problem arose when... So it obviously breaks the rules. This shouldn't have been allowed. What ended up happening was Meso and I, we were busy. The entry period had ended. I am in charge of setting up the polls for voting. There's very specific code that I use to make sure that they run a certain way that needs to be set up. I was busy. I couldn't get around to it at the time. So Keeney made the polls and put them up. Well, Meso and I had no idea he was doing that. He kind of just went and did it. Additionally, this was accepted. It was put into the polls. And then this is like a day or two after the entry period had ended. And finally, the poll code was wrong. So I wake up to find all of this happened. I'm like, great. So I had to take down the polls. I had to redo the poll code. And I was looking through all of the entries, as obviously I have to, because I'm setting everything up. And this entry pops up. And we've already told other entrants, hey, you need to change this, you need to change this. If we allowed this, well, it's now immediately unfair to the other entrants. So we have to disqualify it. There's no time to wait to have them go and change it. We don't know how long that's going to take. The polls are already, they were up. So the expectation is that they're going to come back up soon. We just have to get the ball rolling. So the decision was made to disqualify it. Make no mistake. This entry broke the rules. It was disqualified on the merits of it not adhering to the rules of the contest that have been very clearly laid out for over a month. What a lot of people, the greatest source of ire that comes from this is that Blue was not notified that this was going to be an issue. Unfortunately, that really just boils down to it was an oversight. We just didn't let her know, not out of any specific malice or any particular reason. It just happened.
It slipped through the cracks of dozens upon dozens upon dozens of entries.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's just kind of how it went. Here's the thing about notifying members and entrants of their entries. We obviously really want as many people as possible to enter these contests and to be a part of the process, be a part of the polls, be a part of the submission process, everything. We really want as many people as is possible.
100%.
But us letting people know that their entry violates the rules is 110% a courtesy. 110% a courtesy. That is not something we have to do, and honestly, might not be something we do at all, because it's really not worth the trouble.
It's really hard because I want to give everyone a fair shot. I don't like disqualifying entries. I completely understand it's a large section of rules to sort through. There's a lot of complexities. There's a lot of intricacies. People might miss something. Obviously, if someone makes a piece of artwork and they put their heart and soul into it and they submit it in this contest, ideally, I want that to be represented. And Blue even made a point of showing how easy it was to fix, and she recolored it to be proper. And yes, it was literally that easy. So I felt bad, and I do feel bad that she didn't get in. and I do apologize for the error in not letting her know. I made a big post about it. It was like an essay length because people wanted a reply. So I made one. You can go read that. My feelings really haven't changed. I regret it. It was a bad situation. The thing with the notifications, like Elj said, it's created this weird kind of expectation where we have rules, we expect people to follow them or else they're going to get disqualified. But then we also have now set an expectation to where if a mock breaks the rules or if a piece of art breaks the rules, that we have to then partner with the person who's making the creation and then kind of coach them along to do it in accordance with our rules. That's not really something we ever necessarily signed on to do, and it's not something that's in the rules as a part of the process.
Yeah.
Our attempt to reach out and let people know is just because we don't like DQing people's hard work. It's plain and simply put. And if someone can fix it, we want them to, because we want them to get in. Going forward, one of two things is going to happen. Either we're going to have a better, more thorough system in place with more people than just me and LJ monitoring the entry list and the entry topic and posting if people have broken the rules well in advance, like immediately after they post it, letting them know what's wrong so they have ample time to fix it. And it's going to be structured and orderly. Maybe even have a system. This is just an idea. It's been tossed around. Maybe have some kind of formal like amendment period. A certain set of time you're allowed to make corrections. Nothing set in stone, just an idea. Something like that. Or we're just not going to do it at all.
Yeah. And
the onus is going to be on the creator to read the rules, follow them, enter.
Yeah, because unfortunately, listen, Blue. I'm empathetic in the sense that it's a sucky situation. It's definitely on us for it, but also wouldn't have been a situation if the rules had been adhered to. Which sounds like a really callous and cruel thing to say. I understand. But if if we go with the route of just not notifying people, I mean, it's literally just, all right, well, read the rules. That's it. Just follow the rules. Read them. Ask questions, and we'll answer your questions, and just read them. Because at the end of the day, when it comes to making these artistic decisions, you're gambling. You're running a risk. You're trying to take a chance and see if it pays off. And in this case, it did not. And so
the reason it's so complex, people don't understand the intricacies. People look at this and they're like, you would really disqualify this person's entire artwork and their entire expression of what Artakha is because they made pieces gold instead of gunmetal. You would actually do that? And my answer is, of course we would actually do that. Because if we don't, then we're invalidating the entire point of the mock contest.
Yeah.
People are like, well, what about creative liberties? And of course, with art, there are going to be creative liberties. But everything gets traced back to something else. Look at the Wholesome Gedunka situation. He painted his entire mock with the caveat of, oh, it doesn't matter, vote for it on design work. The colors can be fixed later. Well, we didn't want that because essentially at that point, you may as well have a grayscale filter on every mock that's submitted and judge them strictly for build because the color doesn't matter and can be ad-libbed by the artist later on. We're not doing that. This is a mocking competition with colored Lego pieces that exist. The color matters. If the color doesn't matter or is allowed to be changed on a whim, people can just do whatever they want. People could have made red Artakha or Metru Brown Artakha, and it could have just been fixed in post.
Yeah.
Blue didn't do that. But if we had made an exception for Blue and allowed her in, I mean, in essence, we would be going back to the situation with Wholesome Gedunka and other creators and being like, yeah, this was fun. Do this. Everything feeds into something else. And when weighing all that together, this was necessary. That's why that rule exists.
Yeah, exactly.
So I stand firm behind that. And I think there's a lot of merit to be had in a discussion, which we will have over the next few months, about revisions, about notifications, about whether that's necessary, whether we should just cull it. The only point that I do recognize, like straight up, was bad was not notifying, not because we had to, but because it does set a precedent when we did for other people, but we didn't for this person. I promise it was not malicious. It just slipped through the cracks.
Yeah, and that's really all it did. And shame on everyone who was trying to say that it was a malicious act or that we were going out of our way to disqualify Blue.
People launched it like a campaign about this.
Oh yeah, they really spun up. Blue didn't even Blue understood. Blue was really level-headed and understanding. I understand disappointed, but was understanding and very level-headed and mature about all this. To everyone else,
didn't riot in the streets.
Yeah, to everyone else, shame on you.
For shame.
Your behavior was unacceptable. So, I wish we hadn't stayed silent for so long. I kept on wanting to make a response, and Meso and Keeney were like, no, just wait till it's over. We're just going to wait. And that didn't do any good.
Which is ironic because I ended up making the response.
Yeah, exactly. I know.
Claire, I explained it in my post. I like to do these post-mortems on Knack and Jay where we address everything. I don't really like to be fighting with people in the poll topics while people are casting their votes.
Yeah.
I like to keep that pretty drama-free because I don't want thoughts or out-of-contest shenaniganry to affect people's votes.
Yeah.
So I felt like staying silent until the contest was over and then addressing it was the best call because we weren't going to go back on the decision. And I knew that the moment people heard that we weren't, they were just going to get more and more inflamed.
Yeah.
Now, that wasn't true because I made the post. It took me like 10 minutes and I wrote a mega essay and people were like, yeah, it's fair enough. I get you. So, shrug. Maybe we could have just done it earlier. I don't know. We just do the best we can. There's never a perfect situation. We try to handle things as best, and sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Cherry in the Patreon chat was saying, I do have to say changing the hands on Helrix seems fairly close to these shoulder and knee pads. Obviously, you can't have an exact scientific breakdown of what's minor enough to be accepted and what isn't, but it could maybe be a little more specific. Like if Helrix's hands are acceptable because they're changed to a color that's already primary in the mock scheme, that could be written down just for clarity. Dark Takanuva made the obvious point, well, for Helrix, it isn't as much of an issue. Helrix is black and blue. The hands are changed from black to blue. Not a huge discrepancy there. And it wouldn't be what I would consider a significant modification to the aesthetics of the original mock. Obviously, blue changed several pieces from one shade of metallic, specifically gunmetal, to gold. Now, the excuse here is, well, the mask has been made gold now, so it's to work with the mask. And unfortunately, it's, again, a gamble, like I said earlier.
It's too much. And people, they have the belief, and they're totally correct in doing. I'm kind of saying, I'm not just having this thought. I'm reading, Discord servers right now, and in the Reddit server, discussing artistic expression and how difficult of a line that is to walk. And you're totally right. The people who were saying that it's tough to make claims about what is too much because everybody has a different threshold. With this, it's just like Elj said, it's the introduction of new metallic colors. There are plenty of things on this drawing that are different that we don't cite as the reason for the DQing. like the feet being one giant block of sand green. That's not how the actual mock was.
Mm-hmm.
The forearms being one giant block of sand green. That's not how the mock was. We don't care about that stuff as much because that stuff is in keeping with the mock's coloration, the color distribution, more or less, the aesthetic. It's not introducing, new colors. The gold was the tipping point.
Yeah. Additionally, Cherry says, agree with everything you're saying. I think it would be good to write down everything you just said in the rules. Except I already have. It says artwork cannot significantly modify the aesthetics of the original mock, either by omission or addition, and must follow the color scheme of the original mock as closely as possible. That's all written down. It all exists. And if there's any uncertainty that someone has, they need to ask us. They need to ask, hey, is this cool or not? And not wait until the last day to enter something that is taking a risk.
We're definitely going to stress the discussion topics in future as a please go here if you have any concerns whatsoever.
Yeah.
Before you enter. It'll save you a lot of hassle, save us a lot of hassle.
Yeah, exactly.
Our goal is to avoid this ever happening again.
Exactly. So, again, I'm not going to say, I don't want to say I'm sorry about this all happening because I didn't really have anything to do with it, which is part of the problem. This shouldn't have happened, and it wouldn't have happened if I had, been around to deal with it. But
LJ, to quote a machinima of long since past, LJ, that shouldn't have happened. You were an idiot.
Yeah, so it definitely shouldn't have. So I apologize that it did. But this way we can all learn from what happened, and we can make things better next time. And I appreciate your participation. You had a really excellent mock during the mock portion of things, and the artwork is really cool. So, better luck next time. I think it's going to be better.
Heck yeah.
Huh. Okay.
Huh.
I think we're almost through the controversies, which sounds really bad, but it's really not. We really did not have a lot of controversies this go around.
Think about how minor it is in comparison to hose rates. It's like, entries DQ'd, stickers, prints. Like it's very minor.
It's yeah, it's like all this stuff. It's small things that unfortunately happen to certain people. Last contest, It was, if this entry wins, the integrity of this entire contest will be for nothing. So we're on a very different scale, and I'm very happy about that.
Yeah.
Now, we weren't totally without controversy. That was unrelated to the actual entries themselves. Doric is still not very fun to deal with in the Bionicle community whatsoever.
Doric has returned.
Yeah.
A new challenger approaches.
That was fantastic. That was so wonderful to see that happen. End of the mock portion, and we're just about to begin the art. And we announced our winner for the art, the mock portion, the one that everyone voted for. And people went to BSO1 to go upload the picture of it. And Doric, who is the ambassador for BSO1, the Biosector 1 wiki, took it right down. After leaving it up, being like, oh, that should be fine. I changed my mind, no. So, for those unfamiliar with Doric is the reason we have art contests. Not because he really, really pushed for, artists everywhere and really wanted to emphasize the art portion of the Bionicle community. No, it's because he didn't want the 3D modeling portion of the community to be involved at all. That's why.
Essentially.
So, he is, for some reason, the ambassador for BSO1, so we've been dealing with him a lot, and he was super opposed to these contests even happening. He did not want 3D printed pieces involved whatsoever, and made on his own a unilateral post and decision saying that BSO1 will never accept any winning entries, no matter what, if they feature a 3D printed piece. And so as a compromise, we said, all right, well, how's about we host some art contests? That way, it's art, right? You don't have to present that to LEGO. and you can have the mock at the bottom of the page in the trivia category. Right? Great. That works-ish. So, what he had done was actually not really that big of an issue. Somebody prematurely put the mock up on BSO1 before canonization had occurred, because Greg has the option of canonizing, accepting or not accepting an entry.
Correct.
So, someone put it up prematurely and he took it down. That's fine. Took it down before it had gotten canonized. That's not really an issue. But it's the way he worded everything kind of spun everyone up, because he was implying that this was going to be a conversation later. Like, we'll talk about this later. We'll see. We'll see if we can, hash this all out. Implying that we're going to alter the terms of the agreement that we have with the BSO1. So it spun people up. He's still immensely difficult to work with. It's kind of a problem. I don't really know if I've worked with anyone outside of TTV that has been more disrespectful.
Outside of TTV?
In their conduct. I say outside of TTV because of our previous cohorts.
Ah, yes. That's true.
So,
I don't know. It's difficult. Like, we never want a situation where it's been our position this whole time, where what is, reflected as official material is up to the whims of random people who may or may not have some kind of elevated status, but ultimately don't when it comes to the Bionicle story. Like, I still see a lot of people, going like, well, can Greg really be the arbiter for the Bionicle story and what's canon in 2020? And the answer is 100% yes, because no one has more right to it than him. At the end of the day, until such time comes in future where Greg basically says, yeah, this isn't my domain anymore. I pass the torch on to all of you. Do what you want. Or, yeah, I'm done. I'm not going to make any more additions to this. He's the writer. He's the only person who still carries the torch. He's the only person who still emotionally invests. Greg controls Bionicle G1, or what's left of it. So I do not want ever for there to be a position where one person's viewpoints, beliefs, or personal opinions are basically put up as a wall against official story material to deny its validity. Yeah. And I know the drawing isn't really story material, but you get what I mean. It's something that Greg signed off on, and hypothetically, someone who is in charge of maintaining an information-based database can be like, yeah, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah, and it's like we've had conversations with him and Swart about this months ago when these contests were getting off the ground. Swart, I will continue to reiterate, has been nothing but fantastic to work with throughout this process. He's really helped iron out a lot of not controversies, a lot of the compromises. Doric has been nothing but difficult to talk to entirely. And so we've had these conversations with both of them, and I made mention, well, listen, if these all start, if these contests happen, and we actually get these entries canonized by Greg, I mean, they're canon. If you don't accept them on the website because of how you personally feel about them, you're jeopardizing the integrity of the website of BSO1. And he told me, oh, that sounds like a threat. Nope. It was a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, as has been evidenced by his actions taking that down. Everyone started immediately calling into question the integrity of BSO1. Instantly. Even though technically what he did was fine, the optics on it caused people to have legitimate concerns.
Yeah.
So, it's like, good job.
And that's why I reiterate our stance, is because I never wanted to seem like, oh, we're just criticizing this person. It's like, no, it's the ideology. Yeah. You are And I mean, I say it to Swart too, even though I don't really have to, because he gets it. But like, BSO1 is a respected source of information. The reason BSO1 is of high status in the community is because they're a trustworthy source. They're a catalog of facts and knowledge and media and pictures and videos, and like they're an information resource. If the Bionicle community goes down tomorrow, if all the websites get DDoSed and all the data is lost, BS1 is the chronicle of Bionicle, you know? It's how things are going to be remembered and archived. It's about information, not opinion. And we've always been very like strongly in favor of that, because that's why we support BSO1 so much over the years. They're the #1 trustworthy Bionicle info source, and we don't want that to be damaged.
I think let me see if I can find this quote here real fast. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Here, let me look that up. There's a quote about BSO1 that holds true. This is a quote from Greg Farshty. I'll try and find it, but essentially the quote goes, if it's not on BSO1, it probably didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly right.
It's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. BSO1 is a very thorough website, and they've got a reputation for their accuracy, unlike the Bionicle Wikia. So yeah, it's kind of a big deal if one person is making these unilateral decisions to annex things because they're not happy about it.
And that's why we care. That's why we make it a point. It's not at all because of individual opinions. People can believe whatever they want about 3D printed masks. They can dislike them. They can not want to support them. They can not want to use them or publicize them or promote them or sanction them or sponsor them or yada, 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 yada. I will disagree with you. I'll engage in a debate if you want to about their merits, and I'll like fight tooth and nail to say why they're worth supporting in an era where Lego doesn't care to support us. But if you don't like them at the end of the day, that's fine. I'm not going to try to, convince anybody. But that was never the point. That was never the point at all. Like I said, it's about facts. It is what it is. So,
yeah,
that was a little kerfluffle midway through. It wasn't necessarily a cataclysmic event, but it did happen.
Yeah, no, it did. So, again, I want to reiterate, Swart has been fantastic. We've had a long working relationship with BSO1 and with Swart specifically, and he has always been really, really great to us.
Heck
and
yeah.
That has not changed throughout this process. So, Swart's awesome.
Heck yeah.
Definitely nothing bad to say about him in this situation. So
let's talk about the winning piece of artwork, which we haven't yet.
Yeah, no, we really have not touched on it at all. So this was done by community member Perpetual, and yeah, no, it's very cool. This was my second place vote, personally speaking.
TTV was very divided on this contest. Okay, I say that. It wasn't really divided. It was me versus everybody else.
Well,
most people on TTV were Crunchbite Nuva stands.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, yeah.
Also incredible.
Most of our favorite was Crunchbite's entry, which I'm not going to bring up on screen, but it's phenomenal, and we really liked it. But again, I like this artwork. I think it's really cool. I think it's really good. It looks really good in the wiki. I'm not super jazzed about like the waist cape, but it is what it is.
I would rather a cool waist cape than a regular old net cape.
Yeah.
It's short.
I guess. What I do really like, however, is the mask. I really do enjoy this mask a lot more than the one that was on Crunchbites. Let me go ahead and get a picture of this.
Dude, it's so cool. The mask is so
there we go.
Amazing. I see people in the chat, they're they're saying things like, a person by the name of Markle. TBH, my biggest disappointment was that the G2 Mask of Creation wasn't even an option in any of the art entries.
It's not our
I
fault.
number one is not. Number two, I get that. If you were a fan of how the Mask of Creation has been depicted, I know a lot of people have run with it and been like, oh yeah, the G2 Mask of Creation, that's Artakha. And obviously a lot of people have. I mean, like, King K's mask has become like one of the dominant Mask of Creation interpretations, and it's based very heavily on the G2 mask. So I don't think there's anything wrong with it necessarily. What I was looking for was not that. What I was looking for was something that maybe was evocative of the G2 mask, but wasn't like the G2 mask with some add-ons, or just straight up the G2 mask. And I think this pretty much hits the nail on the head. It's got a lot of incorporations from Bionicle mask design. There's like a design document that kind of shows where a lot of its inspiration comes from.
Mm-hmm.
Elements from a lot of the Mata masks. The freaking crown is the Kini Nui.
I love that.
Like, come on.
I love that so much. I do
Come
think
on.
the design document is very interesting. I do think some of the masks are a bit of a stretch. Like, the Akaku is definitely a stretch. Some are more like coincidental and like maybe, but by and large, though, I really like this design because this is the quote. This is the description we got in 2008 for this mask, okay? His mask was the most ornate anyone had ever seen. More than just a Kanohi, it was a true work of art. The metallic protodermis from which it was forged was arranged in intricate patterns and designs, each reflecting one of the many cultures that flourished in the universe. The islets were angular and pointed, giving him an air of both wisdom and a vague sense of menace. This mask captures that quote perfectly, in my opinion.
Yup.
I think Perpetual did an especially good job on this mask.
It's straight up one of my favorite Bionicle mask designs, like, of all time.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not exaggerating. It's like, it's up there. It's really cool. Now there is a point of controversy about it, about whether it looks good on the mock.
Yeah.
And I do think that there is a little bit of a clashing style, because what Perpetual did that was super cool and why I voted for it was a lot of the adaptations. Like, he very clearly stylized Connor's entry. It's straight up the same mock. It's clearly the same character, but it's very smooth. It's very like regal. He stands tall. He's a little bit slimmer. It's a lot more like, it's difficult to put it into words, but the shapes almost feel more like rounded. There's more like curvatures. It just feels more natural. It's a very, very good piece of artwork that I really think it takes everything that was good about Connor's mock, and it's like, let's make this, let's design the shapes of these pieces into a design ethos that makes this like a character that could be in this world. And that's a very roundabout way of saying it looks cool. The problem comes from using the mask on the mock, which does not have those stylizations, because it was the core, creation. I think the current 3D model circulating in the community is that of Galva, right?
It's Galva's,
yes. Galva's mask. And there's a few shots that people have taken demonstrating what the mask looks like on the mock. And I think it looks really cool. I don't have much of an issue. I can definitely understand why some people might, simply because of the design language. And even Connor says, he's like, I love the mask design, but its more squared off look stands out a little on the mock, which I designed around the wavy line style of King K's mask, such as with the shaping of the torso armor near the head. All in all, I'm still happy with the results.
And I get that. I feel like a lot of the issue is that this 3D model is kind of small. Like, it needs to be bigger.
Yeah, I wonder what it would be like if it was scaled up.
It definitely needs to be larger. Like, even on the winning mask picture that you can see, it is a larger mask. Not by much, but it does need to be bigger.
Yeah. So what I think is interesting, because I know a lot of people are sad because a lot of people really like King K's mask, and a lot of people really like Perpetual's mask, and there's like a fight because they're like, oh, Perpetual's mask looks really good on the art, and King K's mask looks really good on the mock, and which one is which, and they're both on the wiki and blah blah blah. Here's the thing: this piece of art is the canon look for Artakha. It is just factually, Greg's approved it. He said the art was gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah, okay. I just really quickly want to point that out. He said it was gorgeous. We posted a screenshot of his response in the video announcement that I made for the winner. I have very, very rarely ever seen Greg express any kind of an interest in things that people have made. Like, this is one of a very, very, very few amount of times I can even recall that Greg has given any opinion on. So that in and of itself is special.
It is.
It speaks.
So what I was getting at basically is just, if you, because here's the thing, the piece of art is canon. That's the whole point of these contests. It's to figure out what the character looks like. Per the rules of the contest, the art is what the character looks like. It is how it is. But as we have said time and time again, and will continue to say, the whole point of this contest is not to devalue people's headcanons. It's not to devalue people's creativity, because creativity can very easily coexist with how things actually are. It's no different from mods or remakes or redesigns or putting your own creative spin on something. So I'll say to anybody that might still want to use King K's mask, if they make their own Artakha and they replicate Connor's, do it. There's nothing stopping you. By all means. Don't feel forced to use something you don't want to use. Same if you want to use Perpetuals to match like the artwork fully. Like, this whole thing is all about celebrating creativity, and I think everybody brought their A game. Mm-hmm. You do what you want to do. If you want to make, Metru Brown Artakha recolor, do it. Paint the whole thing.
Yeah.
You have that power.
Yeah, pretty much.
We got a bunch of super chats from 26K down the drain inquiring about like digestive systems.
I'm not reading these. I'm sorry, I'm not doing it.
And then Shardak, who said, "Can we talk about Artakha and not fictional bowel movements?" So yeah, in summarization, I freaking loved Perpetual's art. I thought it was incredible. I also loved Crunchbite's art. I also loved a lot of people's art. There were a lot of really good pieces of art, and I'm really, really happy that everybody brought their A game.
Yeah,
I see a lot of people concerned about the fact that there aren't as many entries, and they're like, "Oh, the contests are dying. People are losing interest." I'm like, guys, it's Artakha.
Yeah.
Like, did you really expect there to be as many entries for Artakha as Helrix?
Yeah,
it's a more complex character.
No, I mean, and to be perfectly honest, it wasn't that many fewer. Like, for the art portion, certainly, it was maybe about 30, 40-ish. But for the mock portion, it's still a hefty amount. I think it was only like 15 to 30 less. It was over 100 entries. Like, not to mention, I said this very recently somewhere, retention is still unbelievable. Like, the amount of people voting are over 500 people sometimes. They're still in the 400 range. that is the exact same range as the amount of people that voted for these contests to begin with. That's an insane retention rate. It's phenomenal. So, no, participation is still super high. It's actually really impressive, and it's only going to get higher for the Haga. That is going to be a big contest.
Yeah. So I'm not discouraged at all by the participation. Some characters are intrinsically just going to have less submissions than others because they're harder to do. Overall interest has not waned.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy with everything people did.
Yeah, which is why it's perplexing to see people, like, you'll have one or two people in the topics be like, can we vote for the polls to end now? It's like, no, for starters, we're not going to do that right now. We'll consider doing it maybe around the time of Lariska's. And two, I'm really not all that motivated to make an entire poll that would delay the process, for starters, and B, end with the exact same result that we've had. Because again, I want to stress, the same number of people, the general ballpark number of people that voted for these contests to happen are still involved. The numbers are not in support of canceling any of these. They're just not.
Nope.
So,
Anyway. We will definitely consider feedback as we go along. Personally, we are heartened by the turnout, and we're heartened by the creativity people display. The fact that there was much less drama. The fact that the main sources of improvement are things like ironing out the rule sets, making sure things are more clear, and doing all that, which, trust me, that's gonna be handled. I think in a way people are gonna be very happy with, because we're taking a break.
Oh, thank goodness.
It's been mentioned in the topics, but we're gonna reiterate it here. We're taking a lengthy break for the holidays. Mm-hmm. I think this year's been horrid to us and to everyone. Yeah, it's time to chill. It's time to relax.
Yep.
So I would say, personally, I would not expect the next contest to start until February, maybe January, if we're just ready and raring to go. But personally, I want to lean more towards February.
I would say, I will say, January is our optimistic hope to bring these contests back. I would say at the very latest, they might start back in March, if not even April.
Yeah.
And that's it's a heavy maybe, because depending on how things go, I'm just going to be completely unavailable for a good portion of that time.
That's right.
Yeah.
I forgot.
So
yeah.
So if things go very well, then I will be very unavailable, and I don't know if anyone really wants to start these without me to try and help. So
there's 4 reasons we're taking a break. Number 1, mental stress.
Oh gosh.
We need the detox. Number 2, holidays. Yep. We don't want to do this during the holiday season. Number 3, we want to redo the infrastructure and have a system in place where there's other people who can help, that does not put the burden solely on LJ and I. And it's not because we are lazy and we don't want to do work, but it's because when you put everything in 2 people's hands, inevitably we are human and we're going to make mistakes. We don't want that to happen. We don't know what form that's going to take yet. Keeney has had a lot of ideas about ways to change things, but Keeney is also an elusive ghost, and getting him to sit down for 10 minutes and have a discussion is about as likely as finding Bigfoot. You listen to this, Keeney, you're great. Love you, man. Appreciate you. But if we can wrangle him into a chair and get him to discuss things, he has a lot of constructive ideas for how things can be altered, revised, and generally made better. Number 4 is rules. Not only addressing the rules that we have already had people have issues with, but also rules that people are anticipating having issue with. Case in point, the Toahaga. We hear the questions, we see them in the chat. Things such as Metru builds, things such as Rotuka shields, things such as spears, coloration, etc., etc., etc. There's a lot of things with the Haga to work out. Yep. And work out we shall, because even though the contests aren't going to be live, we are still going to have that extended deliberation period. So between an indefinite time of 1 to 5 months, I'm pretty sure we can work it all out.
Yeah.
I will tell you right now, just to set expectations, we are going to make them have Metru builds. I can say that unequivocally.
Yeah. We just don't know what that means.
I've seen a lot of people ask questions like, well, what is a Metru build? Or do you just mean Metru proportions? Do you mean we have to use the Metru pieces? What if we just use the Metru upper torso and the lower torso is custom? Can we make a build that looks like a Metru build that is really entirely custom? Can you? And I mean, these are all good questions. We're going to answer them in time. But I will say, set your expectations. At the end of the day, even if we have mocks that are more limited or restrictive by nature of being a Metru build, the way we are approaching it, the way we're looking at it, is a theme. It will be a themed contest, because at the end of the day, once again, it is a canon contest, not necessarily a building contest. If the characters look good and they look accurate to Norik and Iruni, that they can be part of the same team reasonably, that is the goal. Now, I have seen so many people who are able to do fancy things with Metru builds. Yeah, I'm like reasonably confident it can be done. Like, people can do so many cool add-ons to make them more complicated. Like, it can definitely be done, to the point where I'm reasonably confident in adhering to that. But of course, people do have questions, and we will answer them. So yeah, I'm pretty good. Lengthy break, reevaluation, restructuring, better rules. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be great.
Yep. No, hopefully it will be. So, but I'm definitely encouraged. Excuse me, by the fact that this last one went so well.
Heck yeah. It's an improvement. 100% it is. And if the next one's a further improvement on this, it's going to basically be perfect.
Yep.
Which is the goal. As few problems as possible.
Yep.
Do you have anything much to add?
Not really. I think we can take a few questions, just a handful, and then wrap things up.
All right. In that case, fellas, if you have any questions about Bonkle, us, the channel, the community, Lego, not Lego, ask them. YouTube chat or patron chat. We'll do both. Some of both, because it's been a minute since the last spectrum of Q&A was approached.
Been a minute. By that, over a month.
Closer to 2.
I didn't need you to say that. No.
Willis12 asks, will Lariska follow the same color rules as Artakha?
Probably.
Tentatively, probably.
Yeah, don't know yet.
Nothing's concrete, but if we cared enough about sand green to make it a thing, probably the same with teal. Let's be real. Teal is a meme because of its scarcity.
Yeah.
So, Kine, why is it you got back into Destiny? Did Meso force you? If you need help, blink twice.
I don't want to talk about it. I do not want to talk about it. It's a very multi-layered and complex situation, and it does not merit conversation on such a public stage.
LJ wanted to duel a certain wolf who has an eye, and it has sparked a bitter blood feud that shall last the ages.
It's only gonna last till I win, which I haven't yet, but I will.
LJ's basically, he wants to go on a wrecking tear through all the people that I played Destiny with and defeat everyone and then leave again.
Yep. Basically. I've made progress, okay? I have some wins under my belt.
Aw, yeah.
Just a few. So, let's not talk about it.
All right.
Quick question from Jake Stillwell. Question, what do you guys think about a comment that says 2008 is not a part of the Ignition trilogy because 07 and 06 are about reviving Matanui and 08 is about awakening him?
Well, it's called the Ignition trilogy. So, if 08 isn't part of it, are you saying 05 is? That's my comment. That's what I have to think about that. It's not the Ignition duology. It's been referred to as the Ignition trilogy.
Yeah.
08 was originally intended to be the Inika, just in the sky.
Yeah.
They just changed it to the Toa. You do raise an interesting point, though. I have seen that about how, technically they do complete their goal in the second year and then it pivots. And that is an interesting point, but technically the igniting part only really happens when the Mask of Life wakes him up,
Exactly.
What they say in the commercial, go to the darkness, ignite the flame within. Now there is no turning back. Let the legend begin.
Let the future begin.
Future begin. There you go.
Oh my gosh, Meso. Come on, man. You had it. It was right there, and you goofed it up. Oh my gosh. This is why we can't have nice things. No.
I apologize. Toa of Snow asks, thoughts on the Phantom situation that's come to light?
Do you know anything about this, Meso?
I know vague stuff about it.
Okay. So to catch everyone up to speed, 2005 also, I want to put a pin in this. Perpetual had a question I want to answer in a second.
Okay.
So, 2005, Dark Hunter contest happens. Bunch of entries are canonized, and they get put into a book. Well, some of them aren't. Some of them are canonized, given descriptions and names and backstories and all this. And they are never seen because they aren't either A, put into the book, but they're put into the encyclopedias, or they're put into the book and they don't have an image for whatever given reason. Well, recently, somebody has come forward saying, hey, I'm one of those people. This is a Dark Hunter, which I believe is Phantom, the Dark Hunter Phantom. And they posted never-before-seen photos of not only their certificates saying they won, but of the mock itself and the original winning photos that they sent in. So it's very cool. It's very interesting. It's very exciting stuff. I don't have much more to say.
I agree. That's very interesting.
Yep. So, Perpetual had a question who said, why weren't the runes aspect of Artakha's limited description enforced as much as the green? Not trying to stir the pot, just curious. This is a great question. I wish I had a great answer for you. Green is definitely his most predominant feature, given that it's very strikingly visually his color, literally. The runes weren't really as... I mean, here's the thing. Runes are a very fascinating thing to try and work with, because you can just very easily say that some of the design work on the mock itself can be runes. Keeney says here, pretty sure that had something to do with the runes being more of a descriptor for the mask creation than rather than Artakha himself. Nope, runes are never mentioned on the mask. They're only mentioned pertaining to Artakha's armor. So really, it was just something that I don't think any of us gave a whole lot of thought to because it was kind of foregone conclusion. So it's like, well, they're gonna make him green. They're gonna give him runes. Clearly, we probably should have anticipated more people just not following the rules.
Guess so.
So
I don't know. I thought it was very tricky.
Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, it worked out in the end, which is great. So thank you for that.
Thankfully.
But
it is a good question you pose.
Yeah, that's really it. It's just I wish I could give you something more, but I can't.
Yeah. Let's see. What else? Caleb asks, when will you do mock spotlight again? Because I missed that. Yeah, so very similarly to what happened to LJ and I. Something very similarly happened to our mock spotlight guy, Zach, aka Starbreaker, one of our new hires for TTV. So Vin, if anybody doesn't know, Vin basically handed over the reins to the mock spotlight to Starbreaker because Vin's like kind of checking out a little bit. He's still around, he's still doing stuff, but by his own admission, he isn't as much into Lego anymore. So he felt it'd be better if the show was in the hands of someone who can really like be passionate about the subject matter. So he gave it to Starbreaker. He put out a few episodes. He like rapid fired some because of Bionicle Day, and it was participating in Bionicle Day. People loved it, and then he started working at Amazon, and that was his first mistake because he's become a slave to the machine, working like 40-hour work weeks with mandatory like 15-hour overtime. So can it really be called overtime if it's mandatory? You tell me. But yeah, Zach's basically become a slave to the Amazon overlord, and I barely see him anymore. And as a result, he has not really made many mock spotlights. But it's definitely he definitely wants to, and I hope that he does soon, because I think he's going to be a good fit for the show. He definitely still intends to come back to it.
Mm-hmm.
Probably only gonna do a few more. Sharnak, LJ and Meso must fight to the death. What are your weapons, and who would win? I'm gonna use a spiked seesaw.
I'm gonna use my Liwa axe, but like a real Liwa axe, so it doesn't shatter upon impact with his thick skull.
I'm gonna beat you to death with the seesaw, LJ.
I'm gonna beat you to death with an axe.
Praise be the seesaw.
Chop freaking chop, Meso.
Oh man. So Diego Diaz asks, where could I find the list of custom pieces that can be used for the next contests? Is it possible to add new custom pieces? So, generally speaking, back when these contests were started, we had a thing where to prevent people's 3D printed pieces, 3D modeled pieces, from being used without the creator's express consent as a direct result of several groups, most notably RSG's, reluctance to allow their masks to be utilized, we allowed for a system to where people could say, yes, anybody has permission to use my masks. And anybody who does not say that basically, can't. Either they say, no, you're not allowed, or they just stay silent, at which point you just can't do it. I think the primary people who did speak up were King K, Galva, and a few others who elude me, but I think they're in the topic. I'm going to look right now, but I'm almost positive you did post them in the topic.
Yeah, no, we have them in the rules.
All right, good. As far as can new ones be added, that's an interesting one because generally speaking, we wanted to prevent a situation where people could say one thing and then change it later on. So that's why. Okay, sorry, I'll cut myself off. I just found it. It's King Sidorak, Galva, GX05, King K, Vaki 6, and DS Creation Forge. You can find it in the very first post of the BIONICLE G1 Canon Contest's topic underneath the subheading of mock rules. I just linked it in the chat. So we didn't want people to change their minds flippantly about whether pieces were allowed or not. So we did put a cap. But what do you think, Elge, of new people who never got a chance to weigh in being allowed to add their pieces to the pool? Do you think that's reasonable?
I don't know. We need to discuss
it. We'll talk about it during the interim.
I don't know. I'm not gonna make any promises.
All right.
My bigger concern is people that have already said no.
I agree.
Saying yes again. Like, RSG is never going to be a part of these contests, period.
Yeah,
in an official capacity. Like, Perpetual's a part of it, so that is his involvement, but RSG proper is just not going to be a part of it, because they've refused, which is a huge mistake, but whatever.
By their own choosing, yeah.
It's their grave to dig.
If we did do things like this, it would be for new creators, new people in the community, who didn't get a chance to weigh in prior. Thankfully, that can very easily be tracked. So maybe, I'll say. We'll talk about it during the interim period.
I'm not making any promises.
That's fair. Toe of Snow, if you were given the opportunity to rewrite one of the Bionicle serials, which would you pick and why? An easy one comes to mind for me. What about you?
I never gave this a lot of thought. I have no idea.
For me, it's Brothers in Arms. Because Brothers in Arms is whack.
Fair
you
enough.
Have this epic personal tale of a Matoran who's out for revenge on another Matoran who wronged him and did all this crazy stuff. And I think killed people. Did Voltraz kill people?
Yes.
Okay, he was a murderer. So he's out for revenge. And it's all about tracking him down, right? It's all about Mezica and Voltraz going up against each other. The epic rivalry. It's all really excellent. And Mezica has to interact with the Order of Motunui. He interacts with Krakua, Jirbraz. I think he even interacts with some Makuta, if I remember correctly.
Alternate reality.
Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Yes.
Okay. And then there's a point somewhere in the story, somewhere around, where was it? Chapter 7, where they finally clash. They finally come together. Mezica versus Voltraz. Good versus evil. And then a portal to an alternate reality opens up, and then they get sucked into an alternate dimension where they meet alternate dimension Makuta, and they get Spherus Magna foreshadowing of the melding. And then Voltraz just stays there. And they just take him and they lock him up. And they're like, oh yeah, you don't have to worry about him anymore. And then Mezica becomes best friends with alternate universe Pterodax, and he travels back to the main universe to get into all sorts of shenanigans. Oh, and he also meets a great being. It's a bizarre story serial. It goes so far off the rails, it smashes the train tracks to pieces. And I think it's a bizarre inclusion because both Mezica and Voltraz are ultimately kind of pointless. But it doesn't even have the catharsis that a story like Dreams of Destruction has, which I think was the Lesovic serial, where even though Lesovic is completely and utterly pointless, he did get a conclusion. He has no purpose other than hunting Karzani and vengeance consumes him, and eventually he needs help from Matoran, and then he realizes, hey, I can still have friends and I can still have relationships with people, and vengeance doesn't have to be all I do. And then he goes off to work with Hydraxon and have a happier life. He completes his arc, basically. Meizika does not complete his arc. Meizika gets his arc stolen from him by an alternate dimension portal. And I think it was just a weird introduction to that story, and it completely goes off the rails. And it was also one of those first points where people really started to feel like Bionicle leaned a little bit too much into the alternate universe shenaniganry, and I 100% agree.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be that one. If I had to pick a second, it'd be the Red Star story serial, where like the Agoria go on the hunt for the Red Star. I forget what that was called.
Oh, Riddle of the Great Beans, I want to say.
Yeah, talk about an unsatisfying ending.
Yep, Riddle of the Great Beans. Yeah, that kind of had a lackluster conclusion.
It was like, oh, he just teleported back, but I'll go again one day.
Then he goes again one day, and Matanui finds him about to die, so...
Yeah. So that's me, personally.
Fair enough. I never really gave this a whole lot of thought, so... Oh, well... Reign of Shadows.
Hey, there you go.
Reign of Shadows. And I would make one
Two
specific...
Yet.
Yep, there you go. 2 Yet. Can't wait till we get to that contest, so I have an image for my hatred.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Stupid 2 Yet.
Last question for the day. Grand finale. Fan bill. How often can we now expect to hear more Knack and Jay episodes? I would like to resume doing them weekly.
Probably not.
I feel like
happen.
I feel like the burnout has abstained a little bit. It's gone away. Like I was telling LJ this the other day. For me personally, I can't speak for you. I can't speak for anybody else in TTV, but for me personally, there's a direct correlation between my burnout on the channel and the contests.
Really?
The contests being such an energy sink, as much as I love them and as much as I extol their merits, it does take a lot of mental energy.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting. Tell me more. No, I'm kidding.
So, the way I'm seeing it, if we're not doing the contest for like 5 months, I see no reasons why podcasts cannot resume their old schedule. Might be a little bit harder for me personally because I work retail and I'm in peak season right now, but I don't need to be on every podcast. We have other podcasts besides Knack and Jay we can do. So I would like to get back into cultivating that weekly podcast cadence and starting to reincorporate all that. Will it happen? I don't know. But I'd very much like to return to that because there's a lot of stuff that we have to talk about. 2021 sets are being revealed, which makes prime candidates for Brickfeed.
Yep.
There's been lots of crazy stuff going on in the world and with all our different favorite media franchises for TTV Podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And Ninjago is going to have new content soon for Ninjago Cast. So I would like to get back there. And of course, Knack and Jay. Even though we still need to do another topic brainstorm because we were kind of running up empty.
Yep.
But we still have a few. So the answer is hopefully all the time.
Yep.
And that's it.
Yep. I think it's time to wrap up.
I do agree. Hit us with some closing plugs.
All right. If you enjoyed this and want to be involved in the conversation, head on over to TTV message boards at board.ttvchannel.com. You need to be 13 years or older and read the rules and you'll have a good time. Then head on over to Patreon at patreon.com/TTVchannel. Those $1 a month, you can be part of the Patreon Discord server and potentially Minecraft server if we ever get that working again, which I swear we're going to try. And then finally, Twitter at Messanak, at the LJ Johnson, JOHNSEN, and at the TTV channel. That's it.
All right.
All right, I'm going to play the music. 3, 2, 1.
Thank you all very much for listening. I'm Meso.
I'm LJ.
And streaming to you from a golden beach, this was Knack and Jay.